5.7. This actually is an old joke about how to explain different political and economic systems. If you have two cows and you sell one and buy a bull, that is capitalism. If you have two cows and the Lord takes some of your milk, that's feudalism. If you have two giraffes and the government requires you to take harmonic lessons, that makes no sense, so that is surrealism. If you have two cows and your neighbor has none, and the town puts all the cows together and you share, that is socialism, trying to create that equality together. If you have two cows and the government takes both and gives you the milk you need, that is Marxism. The government controls all means of production under Marxism and what will become known as communism. Okay, we're going to talk about the revolutions of 1848 as a result of all of these changes in the Industrial Revolution. We talked about the French Revolution and people didn't have rights. We have the same problem all over again because now those differences are clearer than ever before. And people will suggest all of the different isms for how to fix the problem. We talked about socialism. We've talked about nationalism and liberalism and conservatism. All of these theories are how can we fix these problems? There are so many workers now, they are not happy. The workers like liberalism because that means change, that means something different, a chance at more political rights. Think John Locke. But as this idea spreads throughout Europe, governments really aren't a fan because that means that the leaders won't have as much power if they give rights to the people. So, in many cases, the government will sort of smack down on the people. They will increase police forces. They will increase surveillance and listening to people's conversations and what political parties they belong to in order to make sure that the government can protect itself rather than listening to what the people want. We're going to start in France. In 1830, King Louis Philippe comes to power. You will remember in 1815 with the Congress of Vienna, the third goal of the Congress of Vienna was to restore the monarchy. King Louis Philippe is the nephew of King Louis XVI. He comes to power, and even though he is a constitutional monarch, the people have a constitution, they have rights built in, the people aren't really a fan of him because he is a Bourbon. He comes from this family that is used to having power. So the people distrust him right from the beginning. Even in 1831, 1832, there are widespread protests, and those are the protests that take place in the movie, play, novel Les Miserables. The people say, we want more rights. We still don't have the rights that we wanted from the French Revolution. These continue for years, so much so that by the mid-1840s, the French government outlaws political protests, political meetings. So the people find a way to get around it. They start hosting banquets, fancy big dinner parties, and they say, well, you can't arrest us, we're just having dinner. This is not a political meeting. We cannot control what people speak about together at these dinner parties, but this is not a political meeting. This is a dinner party. Most of these banquets are organized by students. And really from here on out, most revolutions are organized and carried out by students and young people because they are the ones, they realize that their future is at stake. Middle-aged people, older people, they don't have as much time left. They're sort of used to the way things are. But students and young people see, especially students, they are studying the problems of history and they don't want to repeat them. And young people, they want to have a positive future. By 1848, King Louis Philippe realizes he can't win, and he doesn't want to end up in the same fate as his uncle, so he abdicates. He gives up his throne, he gives up his power, which is what the people wanted, but now there is a new problem. There's a power vacuum. Who will take over next? Who does power go to? And so the people fight, not in a civil war, but through arguments and discussions and negotiations. And finally, the liberals sort of come out as the victor. And remember, the liberal political goal is utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And this is accomplished through universal suffrage. So finally, they have elections, they elect a new leader, and it is this guy, Napoleon. He is the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte. He is elected president, but just like his uncle, he is not satisfied with that title, and in just a few years takes the title emperor. So once again, history has repeated itself. These revolutions spread. There's a saying that when France gets a cold, all of Europe gets sick. So next it is going to Prussia and the German states. In Berlin, the capital of Prussia, the citizens were protesting, the workers were saying they want more rights, and the army was starting to put down the mob when the king actually stops the army. And he tells the army, don't hurt the people. The people are the reason I rule. And so in this case, the king actually works with the citizens and listens to their demands and listens to their wishes. And the people are saying, we want representation. We want to be able to vote. We want to have political rights. And this starts this whole process in the German states. The king of Prussia is going to use this guy, Otto von Bismarck, to help get the people rights. Bismarck was from Prussia. He's from the younger aristocratic class. Like most people in Prussia, he served in the army, and understanding that army background is essential to understanding how Bismarck will use politics. Bismarck is named chancellor, so this is sort of like prime minister, the person who does a lot of the day-to-day business of running the government. With this newfound political power, Otto von Bismarck will start enacting a theory called realpolitik. And he actually says that theories, ideas, aren't a good idea, that it is about power and action, not about ideas and negotiations. So realpolitik is all about taking what you want. We see this happen when Prussia and Otto von Bismarck decide that they would like Schleswig and Holstein. They think it would be beneficial to their territory. They use Austria because Austria has legitimacy. They, look good on paper. So Bismarck uses Austria. They conquer Schleswig and Holstein. And then as soon as Bismarck has what he wants, he gets rid of Austria. They're pointless to him anymore. It's not about being polite. It's not about honoring treaties and negotiations. It's about getting done what you need to accomplish. From here, Bismarck wants to prove to the rest of Europe that Prussia is powerful. So he sets his eyes on France. And Bismarck has never liked France. And he sees the potential to sort of embarrass France for Napoleon and everything that they did. In 1870, Prussia will invade France. It's fairly fierce because they are Prussia. They siege the city of Paris for a few months. And because it's Prussia, France is forced to surrender. So there you have Napoleon III and Otto von Bismarck. As a result of the Franco-Prussian War, France gives up Alsace and Lorraine to Prussia, to the German territories. This will be important. Remember, Alsace and Lorraine was one of the first territories in Europe to industrialize. Has great resources. Bismarck wants those resources to help booster Prussia's industry. After winning the Franco-Prussian War, Bismarck really feels that he has the momentum he needs to unify Germany as one country. Prussia and the German states, they were the German Confederation after the Congress of Vienna, but now they want to be tied by something more. They have a similar culture. They have that nationality, but they don't have a shared state. So in 1871, Germany becomes Germany. The German territories become a single country. And rather than just a country, they consider it a type of empire because it's all territories united together. So that word is Reich. This is the Second Reich. The first is considered the ancient Teutonic Empire. And the King of Prussia is now the leader of all Germany. And more than just a king, because he has multiple territories, he is a sort of emperor or a Caesar, or in German, Kaiser. And finally, bringing it full circle back to the people, the Kaiser establishes the Reichstag in Berlin, a place where the citizens can have representatives. They will be able to elect representatives to go to Berlin and help write laws. Okay, the last country we're going to go to is Italy. Very similar to Germany. Territories that had been conquered by Napoleon. Boundaries redrawn after the Congress of Vienna. Workers who want more rights and more power and more unity, especially in Italy. So what will happen? This is called risorgimento. If the Italians have created a special word for it, it must be pretty significant to them. This is Camillo Cavour. He is the Prime Minister of Sardinia. Sardinia is the island just south of Corsica, and they had a new king, and he was from this legitimate family, and he appoints Camillo Cavour. And King Victor says, we see what's happening in Europe. We see what's happening in territories similar to us. And he sends Cavour to the northern territories of Italy to see if anyone else would be interested in some sort of unity. That they have a similar culture, they have nationality in common, but they don't have a government. So Cavour is going to work through diplomacy and negotiation in the northern territories. Same thing will be happening in the south, but through different means. In the south, there is Giuseppe Garibaldi. He uses military power. He wins battles, and his army is called the Red Shirt Army because they wear red shirts. It's also why the official state fish of California is the Garibaldi fish, because it's a reddish-orange color. So Cavour is working in the north through diplomacy. Garibaldi's working in the south through battles. They sort of come together and realize we're working for the same purpose, so let's work together. And in 1860, Italy becomes Italy, a unified country, a nation state. And Victor Emmanuel, King of Sardinia, now becomes King of all Italy for coming up with the idea in the first place. And this is the big monument to him in the middle of Rome. So we're seeing how dissatisfaction of the workers and the people leads to things that to us are totally normal. And eventually, Germany and Italy and new countries wanting to prove that they're powerful, this will lead to World War I.